Learning English with English Faculties.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to break down the absolute core of English sentences into simple, easy-to-understand building blocks. Whether you're learning English for the very first time or just want a clear, quick review, getting a solid grip on how sentences are put together is going to help you communicate so much more clearly. Let's dive right in.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start by defining subjects and predicates. Second, we'll figure out how to find the direct object. Third, we'll explore indirect objects. And finally, we'll wrap up by looking at compound subjects and predicates.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Subjects and Predicates Defined. You can actually think of a sentence kind of like a stage play. You need an actor and you need some action. Every single sentence starts with a doer, which we call the subject. The subject is simply the person, place, thing, or idea that's performing the action. It's really what the whole sentence is about.
To find the subject, you just need to act like a detective and ask two simple questions. First, find the main verb. That's your action word. Once you have that, just ask yourself, who or what is doing that action? Boom! The answer to that question is your subject.
Okay, so once you spotted your subject, the rest of the sentence is the predicate. The predicate tells us exactly what our subject is doing, or it describes their state of being. And here is the golden rule you need to remember. The predicate will absolutely always contain the verb. This example brilliantly illustrates how a sentence splits perfectly right down the middle. Look at the phrase, "the dog barked loudly." The dog is our doer, the subject, and barked loudly is the action, our predicate. You'll notice we're using bold text for the subject and underlined text for the predicate to help you clearly see how these two pieces fit together.
Now, as sentences grow longer, the complete subject and the complete predicate might start to include some extra descriptive words. Take the sentence, "the huge ship docked in the harbor." The absolute core of that sentence is really just ship docked. All those extra words, they're just there to give us a bit more detail. But the basic building blocks remain exactly the same.
Now that we've got our core down, let's move on to Section 2 and learn about the words that actually receive the action, the direct object.
A direct object is, very simply, the target of the predicate's action. Think about it this way. If the subject throws a ball, the ball is the direct object because it's the thing actually getting thrown. It's just a noun or a pronoun that directly receives the impact of that main verb.
And finding the direct object is super easy. First, you isolate your subject and your predicate. Then, you just say the verb out loud and ask the question what or whom. The answer you get is your direct object. Let's look at a simple example. The boy crumbles a cookie. The boy is our bold subject doing the action, right? And crumbles is our underlined predicate. So, apply our test. Ask the question, the boy crumbles what? Well, he crumbles a cookie. So, the cookie is our direct object.
Building right on that idea, let's explore our third concept, understanding indirect objects. If the direct object is the physical thing being moved or acted upon, the indirect object is the lucky recipient of that thing. It tells us to whom or for whom the action was done. One really important thing to keep in mind, though, you actually can't have an indirect object unless you already have a direct object in the sentence.
It is totally crucial to see the difference between these two types of objects. The direct object is the item itself, like a letter. But the indirect object, that's the person or thing actually getting it.
Let's break down this sentence. She sent him a letter. Our bold subject, she, performed the underlined predicate action sent. Okay? She sent what? A letter, which makes that our direct object. Now, to whom did she send it? Him. So him is the indirect object receiving that letter.
Now, this brings us to a really fascinating question. What happens when we want to talk about more than one subject or more than one action at the exact same time? How do we say that without everything getting totally confused?
Well, that leads us perfectly into our final section, compound subjects and predicates. Let's see how we combine these building blocks. As our source material shows here, a single sentence can absolutely have more than one subject or more than one predicate. We do this by using simple connecting words called conjunctions. You know, words like and, or, and but, to smoothly join multiple subjects or verbs together. The word compound simply means we are joining things together. We're doubling up on our doers or our actions just to make our language a lot more efficient. Think about it. Instead of saying the dog ran and then saying the dog barked as two completely separate sentences, we can just naturally combine those actions.
Notice how this works in practice. On the left side of our table, Rohan and Aisha applied, we have a compound subject. That's two distinct subjects sharing one single action. Then look at the right side. Tim hates yogurt but loves ice cream. Here we have a compound predicate, where one subject is performing two different actions connected by the word but.
And here we see the ultimate combination in one beautifully structured sentence. Panchito and his family unpack their belongings and clean their new home. Notice how we have a bold compound subject, Panchito and his family, paired up with an underlined compound predicate, unpacking and cleaning. It's a highly efficient, clear way to communicate a lot of information at once.
We have definitely covered a lot today, right from simple subjects all the way up to complex objects. Now that you know the hidden formula behind how English works, I challenge you. Take a look at the very next sentence you read today. Can you spot the building blocks? Can you find the subject and the predicate? Give it a try. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and happy reading.